This is absolutely insane. Dave Ramsey completely contradicts himself on what a reliable withdrawal rate is in retirement. Today I'm going to be reacting to this video where he takes a caller from a guy named Steve and talks about a sustainable withdrawal rate and his financial advisor's recommendation. Dave completely just makes numbers up, and I'm going to show you here in this video. It's crazy. We got to watch. Let's dive in.
Today's question comes from Steve in Oklahoma. He asks, I'm 72 years old and my wife is 70. We're both in good health. We have a combined retirement and Social Security income of about $140,000 a year. We own our home outright and have no debt. We have about $100,000 in Roth and $1 million in traditional IRAs. Wonderful. I know.
What do you got, Steve?
I always love how Dave Ramsey jumps in and chimes here and cheers for people. That is a cool part of the Ramsey show, and he's very encouraging when he hears different people reaching their savings goals. I do like that about this video.
Our wonderful financial advisor is recommending a distribution of no more than 4%. We're looking at about 5% to enable us to travel while we're able to. What is your recommendation on the maximum annual distribution? It's a great question.
It is a great question. And it's interesting. I'd be curious to know what the advisor's recommendation was around the analysis that he ran and why he recommended 4%. I really love to know what Steve's comfortability is with risk. And I really like to know a lot more about Steve before I want to hear more about this video. But Ramsey's going to weigh in. Let's see what he says.
And they're in a good spot. And so this makes me feel better about saying, sure, 40,000 versus 50,000 on the distribution is what they're really asking, right?
No financial analysis whatsoever. No computations run. No calculations run. No software. Just, hey, I feel good about this, so why not? 1% is not going to make a difference.
On, let's say, the $1 million in traditional IRAs, that's going to be taxable. This doesn't feel like a big portion of the world if they've got, the 140,000 income.
So if the money is invested in good mutual funds and it's making, average market returns of 11%, 12%, why can you only take out 4%?
Just fear, I think, is the main reason people do it.
Why would the
Inflation.
financial advisor say that?
Who is putting 100% of their money in mutual funds? I never understand this part of the show, but let's just go with the question.
He gets more money? Is that how that works?
Possibly. Or possibly he is a financial planning lemming. You know what lemming is?
That's an old school word.
These are small rats that run in herds and follow each other over cliffs.
Ramsey's creative, I gotta tell you. I don't understand how he is in so many churches and he's like so mean to so many people. He's funny.
That is the funniest way I've heard to describe financial advisors.
And so, meaning you go along with the crowd. You go along with the crowd. You go along with the crowd. You don't even ask why. You just go along with the crowd. And so you don't want to be sheeple. So here's the thing. That is a standard thing in financial planning, 4%.
By the way, the 4% rule has been drawn down to 3%. 4% was like the industry standard for like 30 years. Now it's 3%. And now some industry experts, Wall Street Journal, other places that do actual financial analysis say it's down to 1.9%.
Because after inflation and after poor rates of return on the portfolio, you're still going to be okay at 4%. But by God, 5%, you're going to sink it, which is completely asinine. This is ridiculous.
They're going
obviously, Steve, you are smarter than your financial advisor because you have more money than he does.
Don't know how much money the financial advisor has, but this is absolutely ridiculous. Ramsey never talks about retirement issues in terms of measuring risk. He doesn't touch on at all sequence of return risk or sequence of withdrawal risk. I want to give him a chance to explain, but we're going to talk about this and unpack this one.
And you've done a better job than he has. So you can kind of tell him what to do with your money. Be real comfortable doing that. And dude, if you want to pull out 6%, it's okay with me. I think you're going to be okay. If you want to pull out 10%, you're not going to destroy the portfolio because, dude, you're 70. We're going to live to 170.
So reckless. Unbelievably reckless. So sequence of return risk basically says that if you have poor market returns in the early parts of your retirement, you can run out of money as soon as 20 years faster than if those same returns occur in your 80s. So there's all kinds of studies done where if you have bad years in the market early on in your retirement, the probability of you running out of money in retirement is significantly more. Because here's the thing. Let's say you took that 6% the first year, 6% of your portfolio out in 1 year. And then let's say the market goes down by 30%. Okay, and the next year you want to take 6%. How much are you really taking? Substantially more income that'll never grow back when that market returns and gets that 10% return. Plus, if you get a 10% return after a 30% loss, you're nowhere near your original principal. You could absolutely run out of money within a life expectancy of a 70-year-old. It is wildly dangerous and reckless to make that assumption. And Ramsey's literally just going, yeah, if you're cool with it, I'm cool with it. Like, he's not going to be around in 25 years when this guy's in his 90s and needing to get income. And so the other thing that happens with people is they want to travel in their best years. I get that. Take out more in the early years. That's fine. But to say somebody could take out 10% a year and not deplete the principal, being 100% invested in mutual funds is, I can't even fathom it. It's like unbelievable to me.
Dude, you're 70. What are you going to live to, 170? You're not going to wind this thing down in 25 years.
No one's going to live to 170, but the probability of this guy living to be 93 is about 25%. The probability of this guy living past 86 is about 50%. So because you're married and over age 70, those are statistics. So there's actually a relatively high probability that one of these people will live well into their 90s. That's where you could run out of money.
You're not going to tear the principal up in 25 years even doing that. So you can be in a position to enjoy your life. And so I would suggest 5, maybe 6% drawdown on this if you've got it invested in good mutual funds that are giving you market rates of return. And I also would suggest that you're...
Okay, so I'm going to stop right here because right now I want you to see a clip of Ramsey even more recently in this telling somebody they can absolutely take out 8% of their money a year. Check this out.
If you're making 12 in good mutual funds and the S&P is average 11.8, and if inflation for the last 80 years is average 4%, if you make 12 and you need to leave 4% in there for inflation raises, that leaves you 8. So I'm perfectly comfortable drawing 8. But if you want to be a little bit conservative, 7, but sure, not 5 or 3.
So again, there's no consistency. It's going totally on feelings. There's no deep questions asked. I mean, if this guy took Ramsey's advice based on how Ramsey was feeling today, it could have a dramatic impact on the rest of this guy's life. So the reality is, when you look at taking money out of a retirement portfolio, there are other risks. Buy and hold, as has been proven over the last 100 years, will always work. If you just hold on for long enough, it always works. That's how the market is for the last 100 years. But retirement isn't buy and hold, it's now hold and distribute. It's a different series of risks when you're pulling money out. And so again, there's no accounting for this risk whatsoever. It's absolutely insane to me. And in fact, if you use Ramsey's model of linear returns, basically saying like, you're gonna make 12% every single year, so take out 10. That makes sense, right? But everyone knows that's not how the economy and the market works. You don't get 12% every single year. Some years you get 12%, some years you get more. That might be an average rate of return, but average rate of return and order of returns are not the same thing. And if you use Ramsey's model of a linear model of a rate of return of a consistent amount every single year, like a bank CD, for example, 1% makes a drastic difference when pulling out money. 1% makes a scary difference in how quickly you can run out of money just by adjusting the rate of return by 1% or the withdrawal rate by 1%.
Right.
Wonderful. Yeah, those were not my words.
Wonderful financial advisor. Have a good explanation for why he's giving you these numbers.
They are absolutely bullying this financial advisor they don't know for actually trying to give good, sound recommendations to the client who they've worked with for years and probably know and have a thorough understanding of and have actually probably run some analysis on their individual situation given their risk capacity. They're absolutely just trashing this guy.
If you're getting an 11 or 12% rate of return, why are you suggesting that 5% is going to destroy my life when 4% does not? It's not logical.
1% is not life-changing either way.
Well, it's not logical. There's nothing. It's only based in, that's a standard card.
What if there was a need to prepare for long-term care? I've heard nothing about the plan for long-term care. 70% chance one of these 70-year-olds is going to need long-term care. Ramsey's saying, rip out 10% a year, no problem. What's their plan for long-term care? Like maybe this advisor is trying to plan for long-term care with the remainder of that portfolio to make sure they're going to be comforted, knowing that they have a plan for long-term care in the background might let them liberate their assets and spend more confidently right now. Here's another crazy thing that nobody ever throws out. Why not just take a bucket of that money and create an intentional income strategy of 5% that you would want to be able to have, or the equivalent of that number every year with a much smaller amount using an annuity? So it's like, it makes no sense to me why they don't do this.
I am curious, Dave, would you say what's strategically the best route to go using the Roth portion first versus traditional?
The traditional's got a mandatory
distribution
anyway. You know, at 70.5, he's going to have to begin. And so I'm going to start.
That number's an old number now. They've changed that with Secure Act 2.0. It's now 73 and 75 based on when you were born. But again, no answer to that, right? What's the strategic strategy of Roth versus IRA? Well, the IRA's got a mandatory withdrawal, so you're going to have to take that anyway. There's no analysis. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to start there and at least do the mandatory. The Roth is tax-free and will pass tax-free. I'm probably going to use the traditional. I'm probably going to go and pay the taxes on it and pull out enough to pay the taxes on it before I touch the Roth and let the Roth continue to grow tax-free because it will pass to your heirs tax-free as well.
Well, at least there's an answer there. At least we have some type of logic in terms of which one you would use first. Again, no accounting for what the taxable impact of that will be, but what are you going to do? Depends on how we feel that day.
So that's the good news on that.
Good deal.
So good question.
This video upsets me because obviously there's no consistency. You're on one side saying you're going to take out 5 or 6%. I'm comfortable with that. On the other hand, you say easily take out 8%. Sometimes as much as 10%. It's reckless. It's dangerous. I mean, people are making decisions based on this. And again, I like Dave Ramsey, but I think his strong suit is definitely helping people get out of debt. When it comes to retirement, this is some like willy-nilly, just like, hey, whatever, that makes sense to me. Let's go with it. It's simple math. Why wouldn't you do it? And it's like, because again, you have to run some scenarios here. There are tons of books out there. A great example of this is Paychecks and Playchecks by Tom Hegna. He has tables in that book that show sequence of return risk and people basically taking withdrawals from their portfolio with historical data 1 year off, where one person lost 30% first, one person didn't, and that person who lost 30% ran out of money in their 80s. The person who didn't had enough money in their portfolio left over and actually grew with the amount of withdrawals they were taking. A 1 year difference based on when they retired had that drastic of an impact. Same exact portfolio, same exact scenario. These statistics and examples are all over the place. So I don't understand it whatsoever. It doesn't make sense to me. I like Dave Ramsey. I don't like this video that much. But again, that's just my reaction to it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions or comments, leave them down below. If you like this video, check out this one right here. And it's going to go into a much deeper dive of how you can actually be intentional with your withdrawal strategy for retirement income.